The effects on transmitter receptors. Receptor antagonists bind directly to postsynaptic receptors. This does not allow them to be activated by neurotransmitters. It also has fast results. An example of this is curare, which blocks the nicotinic ACH receptors, resulting in immediate paralysis. Selective receptor agonists bind to specific receptors and activate them. These are powerful. An example of this is LSD, which has a side effect of strange illusions. Effects on cellular processes. Possible changes in postsynaptic cell that a neurotransmitter can stimulate are activation of genes, production of various proteins, and sensitivity. The effects of genes can create long-term alterations in neurons. Some neuroactive drugs ease the symptoms of injury or psychiatric illness. Throughout history, the solution for psychiatric patients was to lock them away and have them be cared for there. However, new discoveries have changed this way of thinking. Antipsychotics relieve schizophrenia. Schizophrenia was a major issue before 1950, which is when antipsychotics were developed. Antipsychotics act as selective antagonists of dopamine receptors in the brain. Typical antipsychotics relieve positive symptoms, which solves the problem of hallucinations and delusions. In the 1990s, new medication for schizophrenia was developed that had not only dopaminergic activity, but also non-dopaminergic activity. Atypical antipsychotics reduce the negative symptoms, blocking certain serotonin receptors. There is evidence that schizophrenia involves monoaminergic mechanisms. Research toward third-generation antipsychotics is being done because of this evidence. Antidepressants reduce chronic mood problems. Mood or affective disorders are the most common problem or complaint. The first generation of antidepressants were developed in the 1950s. These were called monoamine oxidase inhibitors. They broke down monoamine neurotransmitters at the axon terminal, reducing transmitter activity. Monoamine neurotransmitters accumulate at the synapses, resulting in a better mood. The second generation of antidepressants were tricyclics. These increased the synaptic content of the monoamines, norepinephrine, and serotonin. It was a three-ringed molecular structure that blocked the reuptake of neurotransmitters into presynaptic axon terminals, allowing transmitter to accumulate in the synapse. Newer antidepressants have less negative side effects. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors selectively allow serotonin to accumulate in synapses. Serotonin, norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors selectively allow serotonin and norepinephrine to accumulate in synapses. However, these newer antidepressants still have side effects. These include sexual dysfunction and that they take a long time to take effect in the body. Anxiolytics combat anxiety. Clinical states of anxiety include panic attacks, phobias, and generalized anxiety. Anxiolytics, or tranquilizers, are categorized as depressants. They are used to treat anxiety. Depressants are drugs that depress or reduce the activity of the nervous system. Barbiturate drugs are downers. Pros of these drugs are that they minimize anxiety, maximize the amount of sleep, and prevent epileptic seizures. Cons of this is that they are highly addictive and they're easy to overdose. Since the 1970s, benzodiazepine agonists are the most prescribed anxiolytics. These are safer than barbiturates, and they bind to specific sites on GABA receptors and enhance GABA activity. They produce they reduce neuron excitability. An orphan receptor is a receptor for which no endogenous ligand has yet been discovered. Allopregnanolone is a steroid derived from the hormone progesterone. It is elevated during stress and produces a calming effect. A neurosteroid is a steroid produced in the brain. Opiates potently relieve pain. Opium is an extract from the seed pod juice from poppy flowers. Morphine is the major substance in opiates. Morphine is a painkiller or an analgesic, and it is highly addictive. Opiates bind to opiate receptors. These receptors are found in limbic and hypothalamus regions, locus coeruleus, and periaqueductal gray. Opiates have orphan receptors. Endogenous opioids, peptide transmitters, or the body's narcotics is the way that endogenous opiates are referred to. There are three subgroups: enkephalins, endorphins, and dynorphins. Some neuroactive drugs are used to alter conscious experiences. Humans are interested in consciousness and how drugs can affect our perception of consciousness. Cannabinoids have a wide array of effects. Marijuana comes from the cannabis sativa plant, and it's in a dried form. 9-tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, is the active ingredient in marijuana. It typically results in a feeling of relaxation and changes in mood, but sometimes it can result in stimulation and paranoia. Heavy use can be harmful. There is a correlation that was found between younger people who use marijuana and psychosis in adulthood. The brain contains cannabinoid receptors. Endocannabinoids are endogenous ligands of cannabinoid receptors. They function as retrograde messengers. Anandamide is an endogenous substance that binds cannabinoid receptor molecules. Stimulants increase the activity of the nervous system. Stimulants have an activating effect. Some increase excitatory synaptic potentials. Some block inhibitory processes. Nicotine is found in tobacco plants. It acts as an agonist on a large class of cholinergic receptors. Nicotinic ACH receptors make muscles contract, activate organs, and are found in the brain in high concentrations. Cocaine is taken from the coca plant, and it acts by potentiating catecholamine stimulation. It is a substance abuse drug, and crack is a smokable form of cocaine. Cocaine blocks monoamine transporters, mainly dopamine, which slows the reuptake of transmitters. Dual dependence is dependence for drug effects that occur only when two different drugs are taken together. Amphetamine is a structure that resembles catecholamine transmitters and enhances their activity. Methamphetamine, or meth, releases the catecholamine transmitters from presynaptic terminals even without action potentials. Amphetamine acts in two ways, either blocking the reuptake of catecholamines into the presynaptic terminal or by providing another target for the enzyme monoamine oxidase. Short-term use of this drug is pleasurable and results in euphoria and increased stamina. Prolonged use, however, has several negative effects, such as addiction or schizophrenia-like symptoms. Alcohol acts as both a stimulant and a depressant. Alcohol is healthy in moderation. A psychoactive effect of alcohol has two phases. First, an initial stimulant phase, and then a depressant phase that lasts much longer. This affects GABA receptors and increases the postsynaptic inhibition. Chronic abuse of alcohol damages neurons. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a disorder that affects children's brains exposed to too much alcohol in the womb. The frontal lobes are affected the most by chronic alcohol use. Chronic alcohol abuse also affects the formation of new neurons.